Yes,
problem.
thank you so much that you found time to speak with me because we know each other already such a long time.
10 years or more. Even.
Something
Yeah.
like that, yeah. Yeah. So Roberto González Monjas is the chief conductor of Musikkollegium Winterthur and in Salzburg Mozarteum Orchestra and Symphony Orchestra of Galicia.
Yes.
So a lot of work. How do you do your time management?
Oh my God. Well, I have to plan in advance. Planning is very, very important. Being well structured in the planning and just knowing what to do in advance and getting ready in advance is half of my job. Mm-hmm. If I get ready in advance, even if it is many months before the concert, at least I know the music, I know the piece, then it's not a problem. Okay. So it's about organization and discipline as well, you know?
Yeah, because you have to work every piece. Yes. You have different program everywhere. So.
These weeks alone, I think I'm doing 10 or 11 pieces, just 2 or 3 in these 2 or 3 weeks time. No?
Yes.
But I started 9 months ago.
I mean, we as musicians are already very tired.
Oh yeah,
I can't imagine.
Yes.
How do you feel?
It's a lot of work, but it's for music, so it's nice.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm so happy to be here again.
So nice to have you here.
Thank you. So I worked here 10 years and only now I've got some questions for you because, I have students and I ask them, I do a lot of this audition trainings.
Of course.
And somehow I didn't recognize it before, that when you play an audition as an oboist, you have in the, who is listening, there are the colleagues from the orchestra, and the majority of the colleagues, they are string players.
Of course.
Not wind. So, and we play mostly for somebody who's wind player, for oboe professor or something. Of course. And we never ask strings. What do they expect?
It's funny, also, when I started doing auditions, in being the jury of auditions, I also realized that the priorities of the winds are very different from the priorities of the strings.
Yeah.
Listen, the thing that I think everybody needs to understand when in an audition is the strings, we don't know the technical fine details of oboe playing. So we are often, I think, we have different priorities. And sometimes the colleagues need to remind us, the wind colleagues need to remind us, hey, be careful, the sound or the articulation or so on. But for us, I think one of the most important things, especially I used to be a concert master, and
yeah, I know.
they might not, but I used to be a concert master, and that means I was always looking for the chamber music part because you and I always play together, and it was always all the time this chamber music feeling, and I always had the feeling that even in the concertos, but also in the excerpts, in the orchestra little bits that you need to play, you can really tell if somebody is listening to the music around, So musically, I always found that was very important. And I think for the strings, even if we don't know very well what the technique of the oboe means, we can breathe with the oboe. Mm-hmm. So the breath preparation, and also to see how the line develops in the piece is very important for us, because we take inspiration from the oboe very much indeed. So the way that the breath is done, and if the breath is good, and if the breath is well thought through, not just because of technical reasons, but if the breath is actually natural, if as a string player I can follow the playing of the oboist and the breathing of the oboist, this completely changed the game. And sometimes I have been in auditions where the strings were for one person and the winds were for another person, and it was very often because of the different way of breathing. And I had the feeling the strings went for those who were more musical in that way, and the woodwinds were very often focused on saying, well, but be careful because this breathing is not clear enough, it's not precise enough, or with this person we will not be able to breathe properly.
Yeah.
So I think one has to make a balance, between making a musical choice, but also being, precise enough with the breathing so that it actually, everybody is on board.
Maybe it's also a question of gesticulation.
It could be as well, of course.
Because if somebody is making too much this,
yes,
so it already breaks the line.
Of course.
And also there is a briefing, like a very small briefing before the big line.
Yes.
This is also not good.
Of course not.
So yeah, maybe.
It's true. It also happens with us. sometimes moving too much doesn't help your playing. I mean, I move a lot when I play, and no, but it was an enemy of mine for a long time, and I had to get it under control and know how much I can move. That's basically the point. You know?
Wonderful.
Yes.
And I mean, now we talked about string player. What do they expect? And now I would like to ask you from the side of the sheet conductor. This is again another game.
Oh yeah, very much. You know, I see the oboe as the second concertmaster of the orchestra, you know, or the concertmaster of the winds. And I think that the way that the repertoire is written, I mean, look at the Beethoven symphonies, look at the Mozart symphonies, look at the Mozart serenades. That already gets, look at Schubert, the oboe solos, but the oboe line in general, it keeps the beating heart of the music, basically, you know. So as a conductor, I need, especially when it's first oboe, you know, now let's talk about first oboe, you know, solo oboe.
Would be nice.
I have to say, for me, it is essential to feel the musical personality, to understand that there's an artist behind the oboe, and not just somebody who plays the notes very well, but to understand that there's a personality. You, for example, when I conduct, I have the feeling that I give a beat, and you already know, you have already interpreted what I want, so you offer something. You offer you offer a musical impulse, you offer a color, you offer an articulation. You have transformed what I gave as a conductor into something artistic. And with that, you also take your players with you. You take your colleagues together and you lead them, you know? And that is probably the most important thing that I need to see in an oboist when I'm a conductor judging an audition. It might not be yet, you know, 100% there, but I need to see that there's this tendency, you know, that the person is not only a great player, but also a good musician who understands the music and who's able to lead that, you know. That is very important. With the second oboe is different, and also the literature is very different, you know. That's why, you know, things like the second movement of Dvorak 7, for example, comes up. Because stability and nerves, you know, like literally like steel, nerves of steel are much more important there. And maybe if the second oboe is placed too free or too artistic, the orchestra will not like it. So it's a different job, you know what I mean? Yeah. But if it's about first oboe, it really is about an artist, somebody that can really help me, for example, or help our concertmaster bring the orchestra to a different level. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Do you think there is a difference between orchestras in France, Germany, in this kind of hierarchy of the winds? Maybe in some other orchestra, another player would say, I'm playing fagot, I want to be...
Of course, I mean, I think it depends on every orchestra, but there are some countries, for example, you just mentioned France, where I think the hierarchy of oboe is very clear, you know? Even the first oboe stands up to tune, you know, which is something that I didn't even know that existed. It's very nice, I think. I also know I've worked a lot in the Nordic countries, for example, where things are a little bit more democratic. But I do feel that the oboe, as I said, because of the repertoire, and also because of the kind of, you know, musical input that you need to give throughout the years in all these pieces, that it has a natural authority. And sometimes it's not so much about saying, well, I'm the boss, so I will do it. But rather, but it's about playing in a certain way, you know. And if you play convincingly, as a young oboist who's, you know, trying to make a career, to understand what they want, if you play convincingly and you have reasons to do what you do, and you do it clearly enough, then your colleagues come. So it's not about a fight. That's it. So I think it's the same as a concertmaster, you know. Of course, you can tell people, well, this is not together. But anybody can say this is not together. But if you play in a certain way, people will follow.
Thank you. Yeah, I also think.
Well, that's also how you play. When you play, people follow because you're very clear about it.
Thank you so much. I try my best.
I agree. I think it's great.
I mean, you know, with you, I'm very relaxed because I'm somehow sometimes my intuition works with the conductor and sometimes not.
It's normal.
With you, it works good.
We know each other well. I think that's why, you know. But I think even if it doesn't work, what's more important is to then one goes and asks you very often ask things, which I think is very important, because sometimes as a first oboe, people just don't do anything. Be curious and ask, because after all, we're trying to make music together. So the more information we have about what the conductor might want or the concertmaster might want, the better, And especially for a trial year, for example, for a prove year, it's extremely important, because closing oneself only means that the orchestra doesn't see the whole of the first oboes, for example. So I think that opening up, asking questions, trying to play chamber music with the players, trying to open up to everybody is very often the difference between a good and a bad trial years,
I mean, our orchestra here in Little, my
yes, it will always be yours, of course.
It's very nice orchestra to play more like chamber music, because there are huge orchestras. It's different.
Of course, it is different.
It's really much more difficult.
I agree.
But so I've got two questions more.
Of course.
One question is, what would you recommend to musicians? I mean, when they play their orchestral pieces for the orchestra,
yes, for audition.
So, is there some trick to make them listen? I mean, there are maybe 20, 30 musicians, and a lot of really good musicians. So.
Good. So for me, you know this already, because we talked about this many times together.
I want
but I will first. I mean, I personally think what I'm looking for, especially when there's a curtain, when you don't know who's playing at all, and there's little time. Mozart has, the concerto has passed, good, and now come the excerpts, and you have 2 or 3 excerpts to play. Imagine it's Bach and it's Brahms and it's Varese, let's say, just to talk about something contrasting. I want to hear the contrast. I want to hear that the person knows the music. That means the right tempo, the right style, the right breathing, the right attitude towards the music. Because very often what you find is people who play very beautifully, everything, and it all sounds the same. Could be Bach, could be Varese, could be Berg, it all sounds the same. So when you're trying to audition for an orchestra, you're basically asking the players, can I please be a part of you? And you're auditioning for an orchestra that hopefully plays a lot of different composers every single week, basically. Nice. So you have, this week, for example, we have Mozart, but we have Haydn, but we have a contemporary premiere, like world premiere. We had Schumann. So we had already 4 Greek, 5 different styles in already 1 week. So what I want to hear is difference.
Yeah.
And I want to hear personality, especially if it's a first oboe, as I said. I think that, I don't want to hear somebody apologizing for playing. I want to hear the personality behind this person. If it's too much, no problem. I rather deal with that. But very often people fall through in auditions because they don't show enough personality.
Yeah.
Everything's perfect, but nothing's telling me anything,
For me, the big reason not to vote for somebody was not enough a difference between forte and piano.
For example, and I think that also has to do with the confidence of presenting yourself. Dare to risk. I mean, this is for everybody who's watching. We've sat often in auditions. I've never seen somebody ever wishing for somebody to play bad.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to hear. We're all hoping for good candidates.
Yeah.
So I think, if there's a mistake or the sound doesn't come, it's no problem. Yeah. It's, that's a myth, Nobody needs to ever play perfect, but never play without a heart, you know. So I agree. I think that personality and contrast and style is very important in order to show that the person has more than one register, basically. That's it.
Yeah, this is what you say about that. Everybody who's in the hall, they really want to the musician give his
of course
best.
To hear the best.
But still I know that Lampenfieber, I don't know
that's stage fright, or stage nerves.
Stage nerves.
That's not a good
so maybe fright. I mean, I know there are some things which I'm telling to students to prepare, to how to say, to imagine how they are on stage, how do they go, how do they play and everything. But maybe you also have some tips.
Listen, first of all, what I would say is even if it is for your cat or your dog or your grandparents, play. Because many people are so worried about their audition program that they only have it in their hands or for their teacher. And I think the more you play it, the more mistakes you'll make, the more times you will get nervous playing for people. It's no problem if it's just one person or a full hall, but trying the program as many times as possible, that already normalizes the situation. Then I personally feel that, you know, nerves, what they do is they block us.
Yeah.
So for example, when I know that, when I used to do auditions, or when I knew that something was going to get me very nervous, I would do two things. The first one is I would play the passage that makes me more nervous without any preparation. This means, of course, I could warm up a bit, but then I would leave my instrument for a while, and then I would have to come and play it. Or maybe just play 2 or 3 notes before, and then have to play it from the beginning to the end. Because that means you're cold. You're not ready. And that's what feels like in the audition, you know. No matter if you just play, you still feel like you don't know how to play your instrument because of the stage fright, you know. So this idea of overcoming and, you know, leave the instrument for 15 minutes and then go back and play it again from the cold. That helps a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
First. Second of all, heart rate.
Yeah.
So I have stairs in my home. I will go up and down the stairs 3 or 4 times and then play the passage. Because this is different, you know. This is when you're suddenly excited or when your heart rate is going up, you play differently. And then you realize, oh, my breath is not under control, or my tempo is not under control, or my fingers are not under control. But something like this, that helps already.
Well, thank you.
So anything that gets you close to the feeling of not being in control is a very good thing. And a last tip that I would give, I used to record myself a lot. And what we do usually when we're practicing is we stop. We make a mistake, we stop. We make a mistake, we stop. So what I used to do is I record myself the whole passage. No excuses, even if I made the biggest mistakes. Then I would sit down, analyze what I just did, write down what it was, take 5 minutes, then again. And these, at the beginning, it's horrible.
I know. Yeah.
But after a while, the fact that you need to play from the beginning to the end, like in the audition, when you cannot stop, it starts showing you where things go wrong and how you can fix them.
Yeah.
So those would be my 3 tips, you know.
Thank you very much.
They sound a bit cruel, but they're actually very good for preparing auditions.
I mean, 2 of them one of them I never did.
The stairs. Yeah,
that's
of course.
good. That's cool.
I have another one. Sorry, I just realized that I have another one that was from my Russian teacher. So maybe, I don't know, maybe you also had it, but he would put 5 papers on one side of the table.
Yeah.
And then I would play once, and if it goes, one paper to the right. By the time the 4th paper was here, you realize this is the last time, and if I do it well, we can move on. And usually that's the moment when I didn't play well.
Yeah, and then all of them just
go back.
Yeah.
But you know, I think auditions are anyway very unnatural ways to, you know. So I think putting yourself in a situation safely at home where you still can find a way to, you know, to be agitated might help for the performance day. So I think that's it.
Thank you so much for your time and for your talk with
It's my pleasure. Wishing you all of you a good luck in your preparation for auditions. It's not an easy world, but do not despair. There's always a space for everybody, and I think that's the most important thing to realize.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.